Good morning. Good morning to everyone. This is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, and good morning. It's time for another Coffee and MTG with Nikachu. Well, maybe I should adjust this better. Whatever. This is gonna be as good as it needs to be. It's all good. It's just a nice casual hangout. We're having fun. We're all stuck at home, so let's hang out. Let's talk some Magic, and let's get through this entire dilemma of being, basically isolated. We don't have to feel so isolated. We can keep each other company. That's the glorious thing about the internet. 100 years ago, everyone would have been completely screwed. They were truly isolated. There must have been a lot of psychological problems back then. But we don't have that situation today. We have the internet, so we can talk MTG at any time, and preferably almost every single day of the week, 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, at least for me as well. Let me get set up on my iPad here. Let's see if I can start answering some questions. I know everyone's... Chris is here. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Josie. Good morning, Drive. Good morning, Victor. Drive is looking forward to this. He's driven. Let's see. Good morning, Nick. Good morning, The Magic Geek. Hello, Lassie. Good morning, Douglas. Josie says, I wish I could go back to the lockdown. It was so good not to talk to real people. That's all right. We can talk to some fake people online. The double Lassie again. Yeah, good morning, the other Lassie. The Channel Fireball Lassie. Good morning, Kyle. Yeah, so yeah, we can talk about some Magic, and one huge big revelation or not revelation, I should say, the big news. If you haven't heard about it, Wizards of the Coast has made an announcement that there is going to be a banning and restricted announcement next week. You got it, everybody? You mark your calendars. On Monday, 3 formats are going to have changes, and they announced which formats there will be changes. And that is, we're going to be looking at changes in Brawl. We're going to be looking at changes in Vintage, and we're also going to look at changes in Legacy. And I think the hottest news out of all this is the fact that they are not changing anything in Modern or Pioneer. They're going to let the formats just sort of ride it out for a little while. So, and it's going to be interesting what they're going to do in Legacy, because I mean, you could say, well, they're just going to ban the companions, but Legacy is pretty upset right now with the format. There's all sorts of cards like Arkham's Astrolabe and Veil of Summer, which has done a lot of chaos to that format. So, from an outside perspective, Astrolabe and Veil of Summer don't look that bad. I mean, imagine just introducing Wasteland to the format all of a sudden. That would probably peeve a lot of people off. So I think these are just really powerful cards that have changed the makeup of Legacy in a big way. But I don't know, we're going to see how good or bad they are. There's tons of hosing cards in Legacy. What's Veil of Summer? Sure, maybe it's the best one, but still, it's the format of hosers. So good morning, Poncho. Good morning, Anime Villain. Good morning. Who else we got here? Modern confirmed Pokemon safe. That's right, Nick. We are still a Pokemon format. Greetings, fellow fish fans and the fish fam. Fish fam, the Fire Fanatics, the Cryptic Club, the Ghost Gangs out there. I gotta find some good name for all the archetypes out there. Good morning, Yeti MTG. Sipping on my delicious my gold roast instant coffee. Good morning, Tim. Can't wait for the next week to happen. Oh yeah, Tim being Tuxdev, huge Legacy Merfolk aficionado, really upholding the how can I put it? Keeping Merfolk afloat in the format of Legacy. He's looking forward to some big shakeups, big changes, because he just if I understand you correctly, Tuxdev, you just find the format unplayable at the moment. I mean, yeah, Legacy has had a lot of a lot of things have been happening in Legacy ever since like Oko has been printed. A lot of big things. Modern Horizons really messed up that format. Modern Horizons was like, how can I put it? It was like 1,000,000 commander sets all released at once, you know? You know, when Commander came out with True Name Nemesis, and that one card disrupted so much of the format, and people thought, oh, the format's going to hell, you have to ban True Name Nemesis. Like, it was possible to adjust to True Name Nemesis, and people started playing with more edict effects and engineered plagues, and there's a lot of unique ways of beating a True Name Nemesis. But at the same time, what if you throw like 1,000,000 True Name Nemesis level power cards, things like Arkham's Astrolabe and Veil of Summer and Oko Thief of Crowns and now the Companions? Like, my God, there's been big shakeups in Legacy of the True Name Nemesis level of power level over, and like a whole year isn't even over. We haven't even reached like War of the moment that they released War of the Spark, right? Or I can't remember, when was War of the Spark. Maybe it's close to now. You know, the last year has been chaos for Legacy, that's for sure. Kimura, I don't think you're the only Grixis guy, but I don't know. Maybe you are. It's possible. Jeremiah Clifford says, with ways to bounce Water Trap Weaver as well as Harbinger and Trickster with the new Thassa, do you think Water Trap Weaver is in a better metagame now? For Modern? The problem is I don't know if tempo is enough in today's Modern metagame where it's all about like grinding a lot of cards. So you see the Loris decks. For example, the Loris decks will just eat that Water Triever up with like, I don't know, for example, Seal of Fire or something. Seal of Fire it away, Loris Seal of Fire it again, and Thassa is going to have a difficult time blinking things because Thassa blinks at end of turn, and I mean, they could, in response to the trigger, just destroy the creature if they needed to. But I think Water Trap Weaver is just a little too clunky for the metagame right now. I really liked it against things like Hollow One. That was a good matchup. I think it's still, Water Trap Weaver is still good against stuff like Eldrazi Tron. So I think it's good against the really big, beefy stuff. But I don't really like it against like the low to the ground, really mana efficient stuff. Like if you play a 3 mana, if anyone doesn't know what Water Trap Weaver does, it's 3 mana and it ices something down for a turn. So you tap it down and it doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. So the higher the converted mana cost of the card is to cast, I think the more effective Water Trap Weaver is, because you're spending 3 mana to like temporarily tap something down that is like 3 mana, 4 mana, 5 mana. Sometimes Primeval Titan, 6 mana, so I think that's worth it. But then when you're tapping things down like Delver of Secrets or Loris or like Swift Spear, Goblin Guide, not as strong. You're spending a lot of mana to tap something down that was very cheap. So it's Tuxtev, chiming in. It's not always about mana cost, but also power and toughness. But usually power and toughness scales with the mana cost. For example, if your opponent's deck is just full of like really cheap spells that are really big, I don't know if you're tempoing them out with a 3 mana creature when they're casting a bunch of cheaper spells anyway. It's sort of like my point. So I'm not thrilled. I'm also not really thrilled with the positioning of Thassa, because if you play like it's 4 mana, that's a lot of mana for Modern Merfolk. You could be dead by the time you get to your 4th mana source. So not high on that Thassa. If we had like maybe a slightly better blink targets, we could consider it. I do like Water Trap Weaver. I just not thrilled where it is right now in the metagame. So we got a super chat. Thank you very much, Chris Yednak. Thank you very much for the super chat. Hey, getting into Magic the Gathering online and was wondering what rental service you use or recommend. Thanks and love the morning chats. So I can only recommend 2 because I only know 2 that exist. And the first one is Card Hoarder. That is the one I use because they are sponsoring me. So hooray for Card Hoarder. So Card Hoarder has a rental service. I like their interface. It's very easy to borrow cards. It's very simple. They have good customer service. They're really fast at getting back to you if you have questions. So I've used Card Hoarder. I've never really used anything else, so I have nothing to compare it to. But I know Mana Traders is also a very popular rental service. So maybe investigate those 2 if you want to find out what decision you have to go down. But yeah, I use cardhoarder.com, but there's also Mana Traders, also a very popular rental service, and I'm not familiar with any other ones. If anyone knows of other rental services, you can let them know in the comment section or leave a comment. Don't leave any links because they're going to get automatically filtered by YouTube, but just leave the name or like something space dot space com is fine as well. So anyone who can help Chris a little bit more, but I use Card Hoarder and I have no problem with them at all. They almost always have cards available. I'm very happy with their service. Good morning, Ben. Yes, the Tuck said we can tap down the beefy champion of the parish. But like just talking about the humans matchup, like Water Trap Weaver is fine. I do have it's fine, but I don't know if it's overwhelmingly great. I mean, I would say that I am happy about having Water Trap Weaver in the humans matchup more than I like other cards, but sometimes I can still get overwhelmed by their own tempo cards like Reflector Mage and Mantis Rider and just a lower curve that's being spewed out to me. So I slow them down a little bit, but still it's hard to compete with the curve of their deck. Although I have to admit, like Water Trap Weaver into more Water Trap Weavers, I've tempoed people out, so I mean it's a good card. Oh my god, Merfolk competitive EDH. Not sure where that came from, but I'm all for Merfolk and competitive EDH. I played it once on the Spike Feeders. So the Spike Feeders, the spikefeeders.com competitive EDH channel, they invited me. And let me say, Merfolk is good. Merfolk is good in competitive EDH. I wouldn't mind some one-on-one competitive EDH action going on at a competitive level in Magic. I'd be all for it. And maybe it's a better way of moving companions into the game than actually creating companions. So if Wizards wants Commander in competitive Magic, then just like start supporting one of the competitive Commander formats. But only 1 versus 1. I don't know how like multiplayer would work. Because like it might be more politics than like actual deck building and strategy. Although politics is a skill. Politics is a skill. Good morning, Olaf the Snowman and the rest of the fish school. The Magic Key. In that matter, would it be worth it for stuff like Shadow or Goyf? You have to be you got to be a little bit more specific. Magic Geek. Also consider that I'm a little slow with reading the comments. I don't get through all of them every single day, but I do my best, so I don't know what that's in reference of. If it's going to kill you, ice it. That's right. Good morning, Endgame. Komori says, Thassa is too slow. If you want to play a 4-drop Master of Waves, will be better tempo. I mean, yeah, that's correct, Komori. And like, even Master of Waves is like, sort of, I wouldn't say it's on thin ice, because right now it's sort of well positioned because of the, because of all the prowess and the burn decks that are in the metagame. So it's definitely a lot more positioned than it has been in the past. However, like, yeah, like it's always a big cost to play 4-drops in your Merfolk deck because you're not getting to that 4th land very often. Like, usually you're playing the thing on turn 5 or 6, and you have to hope that it is like very, very... It's got to be worth it when you play it. So when Master of Waves hits the battlefield, it potentially can kill the opponent by the next turn. Or, if your opponent is about to kill you, Master of Waves can stabilize the board by putting an army on the battlefield to block your opponent. Like, Thassa's Deep Depths may not do something like that. It might just, like, enter the battlefield. It might blink something, it might not, and it may not even have the Devotion active to block anything. So, like, there are some big risks to playing stuff like Thassa Deep Depths in Modern. Now, there could be a different argument for Pioneer. Pioneer is a little bit slower, so things like Water Trap Weaver, Thassa Deep Depths might be something there. However, I think for Merfolk, we need like another Lord in Pioneer if we're going to talk about Merfolk very seriously in that format. Needs one more Lord. Just like it can be a 3-man Lord. I don't care. It just needs one more Lord. Good morning, Sly Powered. King Agony Drumming. Should I buy 4x Chalice and flip it later? I can't really give financial advice because I'm not very good at this. I'm not very good at predicting the future. Like the only thing I can do is say, you know, Chalice of the Void is at a good price right now, and I think if you're interested in owning it for your deck, it is a good time to buy it, or it is a better time than usual. It's like on a downswing, and it's even like 10 ticks online, which I think is insane. I mean, it's been as high as 80 ticks. So I think if you want to buy it, you should be buying it to own it. But I cannot predict if like the price generally will go up in the future. For all I know, they're gonna like reprint Chalice of the Void a million times, reprint it a million times in the treasure chests online. So I can't predict if it's actually gonna go like way higher. I would just say if you're comfortable buying Chalice of the Void and you need it for your archetype, like now's a better time than usual to buy it. And even if the price goes lower, whatever, you should be happy with the price that you got because you never know what's gonna happen in the future. Morning, Moro. So Lassie says, Kumori, when does your first video go online? I don't know. I guess that is not for me. The Magic Geek. I watched your video on whether to buy chalices, and I currently have my 4th on the way. That's right. You know, if you're serious about your deck, I mean, and it uses chalice and uses chalice well, you should have it. And what's really heartbreaking are the people who, as the price rises, they sell out because they think, well, I'm not using the card, so like why not just sell out? And the price just keeps going up, and then they need it because that's why the price is going up, because it's actually in really well positioned and super high in demand, and now they're screwed. They sold their chalices, now the price is really high. So you gotta like, and no one's thinking about chalice when it's not well positioned. So when like the price is dropping, like nobody cares. I think you should. I think if you're serious about your deck and you use this chalice really well, you should buy chalice and hold on to it, and then like just you only sell the chalice when you are deciding to sell everything. That's how I'm looking at it. If you're selling out of the chalices, you're selling out of the deck because. Time and time again, over so many metagames, and you look at the price of Chalice of the Void, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, because it is either super well positioned or not well positioned at all, and the need for Chalice goes up and down with that need of the metagame. And when you need it really badly, so you cannot like lose faith in the Chalice of the Void. When it's going down. And another thing, like some people, especially right now, are selling out while they think it's high. And I don't know, maybe it's okay, but the problem is if they sleep on it and then Chalice of the Void all of a sudden is positioned again and gets to the price point that they sold it for or even higher, they're screwed again. They're just screwed again. It's hard to know when you need the chalice until it's too late, I think, for a lot of people. I know when I need the chalice. But not everyone is like that. They're not like, for example, I can recognize it in the online metagame faster than people can recognize it in paper. Like the paper sort of lags to the presence of what's going online. So if you're like a paper person and you're not paying attention to the conversations or the results of going online, then it might be too late by the time you want to buy back into Chalice of the Void. All right. Chris loves my reply. You're welcome. You're welcome, Chris. Piotr Wiotkovsky, what would you think about 21 colored lands in Simic with a higher curve? I think it's okay. I think it's okay. In fact, I think even with Ether Vial, I don't know what format you're talking about, but if you're talking about Modern, I think it's okay. I've played with as high as 22 lands, but make no mistake, I played with utility lands. Like, I've gone up to 22 with like Fairy Conclave, and I liked it actually. I liked it when I wanted, if I needed to cast Master of Waves on curve, I actually thought that was good, and I was using the lands anyway. I think that there actually is value to curving out on some regular basis in Merfolk. So I don't mind the idea of going up on lands, but they have to be utility lands. Otherwise, like they got to be like some sort of creature land or ghost quarter or something to that nature. It needs to have some sort of purpose. It's got to be like a spell in itself. Otherwise, I think you're going to end up flooding a little bit more often than you want to. But this is assuming that we're talking Modern with Ether Vial. Because I don't like, Pioneer and especially Historic are like two different things. Ethan, coffee time. That's right, it's coffee time. And with that last question, it is time to take a good deep sip of coffee. Mmm, delicious, absolutely delicious. I love my coffee. I like it ice cold too. I wouldn't say this is ice cold, but I don't mind coffee that's getting cold. Mm, awesome. So, Lassie says, how much does Merfolk cost in paper? I know my budget version costs like $250, so it's pricey. It's a bit costly, to be honest. I'm not gonna BS you. I think it might be around 750 though. The most expensive pieces are going to be like Cavern of Souls. Cavern of Souls still is a pretty, the cost is up there. Ether Vial, however, is going down in price. I mean, it's like, I think last I saw it's like 20 US dollars. Maybe you can get it for less on TCG Player. So like right now is a really good time to buy into the Merfolk staples if you're interested. Right now is a really good time to buy into Modern, period. If you want to play paper Modern somewhere a year from now, like get some staples right now. I think right now, I will say the prices are lower than they've ever been in a long time. All right, so there's a lot of archetypes. You know, the fetch lands I think are going down. Definitely the Ether Vials have gone down. A lot of things. Yeah, like and Tuxtev just says buying into Magic the Gathering online right now is super cheap as well. Like the prices of a lot of things have just collapsed because people need money. So if you have money, right now is like a very good time to buy in. If anyone was looking for like a reprint to lower the prices or a big discount, look, the crisis, the world crisis right now, the recession has created that discount. So everything is pretty cheap right now. I don't have a lot of things I'm looking to buy, unfortunately for me, but like if I were to buy stuff, I mean, right now is just basically the time to do it. So the only problem is if you don't have the cash, you can't take advantage of it. I mean, you might be one of those people selling the cards, you know. But I'm just saying, like the reprint everyone's looking for, the what's it called, the discount everyone's looking for. I mean, here it is. Here it is. So if you want to take advantage of it, go for it. If you can't, well, or hold on to your cards at least. What do we got here? Who is your, oh, so the Cody Hope says, who is your favorite master to have on Masters Monday? You know, that's a tough question. So two that really stand out to me are first Laplacian, and we're gonna interview Laplacian. I just talked to him, the Eldrazi master, because he's very opinionated. I like a lot of his ideas. I like how he articulates a lot of his thought process. And so, and he's got like a unique competitive perspective on Modern and just Magic in general. And then another like really nice guest that we had on was what's called the Pen Sword, Jacob Kaminsky, because of his just absolute passionate love for Blood Moon and Blood Moon decks, and he had a lot of really good valuable advice for those Blood Moon players. So those were definitely my favorite. I mean, I love all my guests that I had on Masters Monday, but those two really stood out for me. Kamari points out 1 versus 1 Canadian Highlander is better than Commander. Oh, Canadian was always better. Brenton asks, have you ever tested around with Coco without Hierarch and Simic Merfolk? Brenton, not only did I test Coco without Hierarch and Merfolk, I played it in a Grand Prix once. I was so convinced that this deck was really good. Unfortunately, I didn't make day 2 at the event, but I don't think it had anything to do with necessarily the idea of playing Coco. The problem was I underestimated the popularity of Jeskai control. Like, I was more prepared for blue-white control, but not Jeskai control, which is more about spot removal and pretty good at grinding me out. Like, there was the GP Toronto that I brought this deck to. It was like just a week or two after a pro tour, a modern pro tour, and strangely enough, like Jeskai Control actually had quite a bit of a presence in that event. So, but I should have just shrugged it off, like no one's gonna play Jeskai Control. Well, lo and behold, I ended up playing against a bunch of Jeskai Control decks, and my deck was not as prepared for that. That being said, like whatever, things could have broke my way better. At any Grand Prix, you have to run pretty well. You need to play well and you need to run well if you want to succeed at the Grand Prix level. Now, that being said, I found that Collected Company was very good for the deck. You know, against what I think the majority of the Merfolk community is not for Collected Company in Merfolk, but I find that it is great in the deck. It is an instant speed way of getting a 2-for-1 in your favor. And sometimes higher than that, because if you find a Silver Gill Adept, it replaces itself. So this is like a 3-for-1. So there's a lot of advantages to playing Collected Company in Merfolk. I like it. And at any moment, I mean, I do have it available, or I could put Collected Company in my sideboard, or even my main deck, in the Simic version of Merfolk. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I just haven't found the need to... I haven't found it necessary to have threat density, and still 4 mana is a lot of mana right now in Modern, so I need the format to slow down long enough for me to want to reach for the Collected Company, basically. But I think it's fine without Hierarch. With Hierarch is like a dead card. It is pretty bad to like Coco into a Hierarch if that is your only, if that's one of the two things that you find. It's usually a dead card on the battlefield. It's okay. Sometimes getting out ahead is good. Sometimes the the Exalted is good, but not enough that it really pushed the win rate of the deck high enough to something I would find acceptably competitive. But Coco by itself, I did. I was always, every time that I played Coco, and I have many 5-0s with Coco, I have been satisfied with the power of Coco. David hi Nikachu, will you discuss unbanning Deathrite Shaman in your Modern ban list series? Yes, I will. Eventually I will get to them. I want to do actually a thing where I buy all the cards and I have them on my wall, and then we're going to do a thing of like if we're going to exit or not. Like if it should remain banned, we're going to give it the X. So I'm thinking about like buying into all the cards because they're not too expensive, and well, I don't know, maybe I'm burning 10 Canadian dollars a card, but whatever, it's all good for the aesthetic of my background or whatever. We need to evolve the background, the backdrop. We need more stuff. And people need to look at the background and wonder, well, where's the video where that thing got crossed out? Where's the video where that thing got added and stuff like that? So I want to evolve the background meta, the meta of my background. But we are going to go... I hope to go through all the cards eventually. Almost all the cards. Competitive EDH is normally 4 people trying to win the game, so it is about optimal lines from my experience. Alright, that's interesting, T-Man. It's good to know. LOL at unbanning Deathrite Shaman. You know, truth be told, I don't think it would be a complete dumpster fire. It's just that it would just converge a lot of decks, and like a lot of... almost everyone... like almost every single deck is going to try to utilize Deathrite Shaman. Hell, like, okay, Noble Hierarch might not see play in Merfolk, but Deathrite Shaman might. So, I mean, if Deathrite Shaman sees play in Merfolk, that's a problem. I don't know how to make this card balanced. It was like, it has just too many abilities on it, but like, it would solve... it does slow the meta down. Let's not BS ourselves. And as as Magic becomes more oriented with the graveyard, like Deathrite Shaman would help in that degree, but it just, Deathrite Shaman creates other problems as well. It like, I don't want to say it oppresses graveyard decks, but then it's going to make things really, really, really fair. And it sometimes is hard to race a Deathrite Shaman. Nick Barth, politics is a skill, confirmed. Nikachu running for governor of Winnipeg. That's right. You watch out. I don't know if we have governors here. We have like premiers, mayors. I don't know. We're not a governor people. We don't have a president. We have a prime minister. That's how we do it here in Canada. We follow whatever England did 200 years ago. We're following a really old, I don't know, United Kingdom thing. I hear many Canadians speak French. Nikachu, do you speak any French? I speak so little French that I don't even know how to say no in French. That's how much French I speak. French was hands down the hardest subject for me in school. When it comes to me and learning languages, my brain just rejects the idea of learning another language. It's just so hard for me to learn a language. Even when I was like, I don't know, in grade 4, 5, 6, 7, I'm like, I don't hear anyone speaking French in public. Why do I have to learn this language? What is the point of this? This is pointless to me. And my grades were terrible. I don't even know how. I definitely failed all my French stuff, but like I failed with 45%. So like the teachers are like, whatever, you can pass, just move on, get on with your life. And I still have very rarely interacted with any French community. Like the thing is that French is there is a lot of French-speaking people in Canada, but they're part of their own communities. I'm nowhere near any of them. If you go to Quebec, I mean, there a lot of them are going to speak French, and there's French communities all over Canada as well. I mean, Winnipeg has its own French area. You can like order McDonald's in French if you want to, but I'm just not like part of any of them, so I've never been in a situation where I needed French in my life. And not to mention, like, I don't even know if Canada's really a bilingual country at this point. We've got so many other ethnicities. I'd be very curious to know what the stats are on like Cantonese/Mandarin versus French. Which one is larger? Maybe French is still larger, but like we've got a giant Chinese population also in Canada that might rival the idea that we're a bilingual country. We're more like trilingual. Potentially. But yeah, I don't. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Bonbon. Oh, je me pas suis le fromage noir. That's the only sentence. That's the only complete sentence I can say, and it's useless. It's completely useless. And it means, as if I understand correctly, it means I am not the black cheese, which is true. I am not the black cheese. Lassie says, what cheap deck could I play when I want to start with Modern but don't want to play Boring Burn? You can play Merfolk. So I have on basically every 2 weeks, Lassie, I make a $100 budget Modern Merfolk deck. You also could look into Mono Red Prowess if that's a little bit more exciting for you, but it might feel like a burn deck more or less anyway. I don't know any other kind of complete Modern deck that you can play on such a budget. I know the Splicer had like a sweet $100 Death and Taxes build, and like he never published it. He never made any videos on that. So you gotta like, I don't know, nag the Splicer to remake a Death and Taxes deck at a Death and Taxes deck at $100 again. But yeah, $100 US online, Ether Vials and everything, almost everything. The only thing it's lacking is like Cavern of Souls and maybe Chalice of the Void. But I think we can even squeeze in Chalice if I make the right adjustments. Chalice of the Void is possible. Also, I think like Storm is possible at a very budget level online. I think that's possible if I know correctly. Like Storm is a pretty good budget deck. What else? I think that's all I can think off the top of my head. I would have to look down the list of potential archetypes that might be budget worthy. For me, it's like easy to make a budget deck in Modern. Like if a player really wants to, you just gut some cards. Like Cavern of Souls, yeah, you're really well positioned, but you know what? Basic Island, you're good enough. I mean, it's still gonna add mana, am I right? Against like a lot of other decks too. Like if you're against Burn, do you need Cavern of Souls? You can live without it. You can live without it. I mean, unless you have Chalice of the Void on too. Whatever, moving on. So Piotr asks, or I don't know if he's asking, not actually 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1 in a competitive setting leads to mostly forcing other people to lose resources on other people rather than actual politics. Oh, we're talking about the competitive commander. Okay, Oriol Heru Hello, have you ever tried modern tree folk? I love the archetype, also merfolk. Would love to see you try the tree folk. I have not tried tree folk before. I have no idea what is in tree folk. Changelings, I would imagine. I would just play a bunch of changelings. So welcome everyone if you're joining today, Coffee with Nikachu. So I'm gonna take a deep sip of my coffee. I love my coffee. My brother loves his coffee. He goes through tons of coffee. I come from a coffee family, that's for sure. So, yeah, welcome everyone who's joining the stream. I think on a semi-regular basis, I'm going to try to make it at around 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time like we're doing today. And then maybe if there is an exception to that, I will give everyone some notice either on Twitter or Facebook if it's going to be earlier, or if it's going to be later, or if it has to be canceled. But I think 10 o'clock is a pretty good time for me, and I think a pretty good time for everyone else, everywhere else around in the world. We're having a good time. Great questions so far. Thank you for joining me on this wonderful Tuesday morning. That's still -3 degrees outside in Winnipeg. It's the middle of May and it's still not warm yet. Bloody hell. Oh, Brenton chimes in saying, you know what, merfolk and elves are fun budget options. So yeah, merfolk, definitely a budget option. And I didn't know elves could be a budget option, but I could see it. I could see, just like, screw the collected companies, just play all the other merfolk cards. Kamori asked, Nikachu, which merfolk would you really like if it had a different mana cost or stats? So I've sort of got this question before, and a good community answer was Deep-Root Elite. If Deep-Root Elite was 1 mana instead of 2 mana, booyah! That would be great. So that would be probably the best merfolk, like, of all time, because it's like Champion of the Parish, but I can put it on anything. I could beef up the Silvergill Adept so it doesn't die to Plague Engineer. I could beef up this, I could beef up that. We could just move the counters around if necessary. Even out the power or even out the toughness to attack through against our opponent. It would be fantastic. So definitely I would play Deep-Root Elite. Is just a card I don't like to touch. I don't like this card at all. But if it was at 1 mana, hey, it's all good. It's all good with me. Moros asks, you always say that if you love a deck, you should adapt it to the meta, but what if the best version is less fun to play for you? For me, this happened with Luris Jund, WRT old-fashioned one. I hear what you mean. You want to play the deck as if it was in the old glory days, but I think what ends up happening is you have to accept some form of change. There's just no way around it. As time, like for example, I can definitely speak to what you're saying. You want to play with Bloodbraid Elf. You want to play with Liliana the Veil in your Jund deck, and because you have a strategy with that deck. Like, especially Liliana the Veil is a very interesting skill-intensive card, ticking it up against control decks and combo decks, and also using it as good attrition versus creature-based decks, and Bloodbraid Elf is a fantastic 2-for-1. And I hear you, because I played Master of Waves for a very long time, and even probably I played it like a little bit longer than it should have, and then at some point, like, the straw that broke the camel's back was when Modern Horizons was printed, and they printed Plague Engineer, and now like Master of Waves was just too much mana for too little. It just died all the time, and I had to admit that this card now was more or less obsolete. If there was there was like no good matchup anymore. All the good matchups were gone. Like there was just very few. I could not justify putting Master of Waves in my deck based on the speed of the format. It was like a Hogak meta, and also based on just the very few archetypes that were good for Master of Waves. But when I didn't take the perspective that Master of Waves was dead. I took the perspective that Master of Waves was taking a break. And for now, I have to change the deck that I like. And you know what? I went more aggro. I went into Simic Merfolk. And I did find, I have to try to find some enjoyment with the new archetype. I have to find what makes this deck sort of fun. And I was playing with more 1-drops than I ever did before. For Cometa Speaker, for Benthic Biomancer, I played with a lot more Lords. I played, yeah, a lot more Lords. And so I was much more aggro and low to the ground and more aggressive, trying to beat people as quickly as possible and moving away from that sort of tempo mid-range approach that I used to like. So I had to find some I got to look at the positives to the new archetype that I was playing. But make no mistake, Jund will go back to Liliana the Veil. Jund will go back to Bloodbraid Elf at some point. They're not dead cards, they're just taking a break. And if you really do not enjoy, like I have mentioned this before, if you really do not enjoy the Loris metagame, you could take a break from Modern and play something else while you wait for it to get banned. Because something's gonna happen. They're not taking action now, but they will take action. You know, I mean, I wouldn't fault anyone for taking a break from Modern when Hogak was running loose, like completely running loose with the metagame. And you know it's gonna get banned. Like, you know, we all know Hogak is getting banned. Why didn't you just ban it immediately? What's with Bridge from Below? Just ban Hogak too. Just do it. You know it's not healthy for the meta. There's a million big tournaments coming up. Just ban the damn thing. Who cares? Modern Horizons is gonna sell anyway. Hogak wasn't even an expensive card. Hogak was a really cheap card in Modern Horizons. Everyone knew it was gonna get banned. No one wants to really invest in it. No one wants to be holding onto that like dumpster fire of a card. So the point is, like, eventually the card, like, something's gonna change and fix the format to a point where you can probably play the classic Jund that you wanted to play. But if you really are forced to play the Loris Jund and you want to play right now, I would say try to focus on some positive aspects of Jund that still feel like Jund to you. Maybe even change the deck to your own style, that suits your own style. For example, I don't know. I don't personally know what matchup Loris is bad in for Jund, but I mean, you can still play Bloodbraid Elf in your sideboard in theory. Bloodbraid Elf or Liliana the Veil for the matchups that it's good against, but I don't know what matchups those are. So it's possible. You would lose the ability to play Loris. So it would have to be like those cards would have to be really well positioned, but it's possible. Anyway, I hope that's some food for thought. Either take a break or try to focus on what aspects you can enjoy with the new version of Jund in today's Modern metagame. All right, so Nick asks, Nikachu, what do you think of that combo Merfolk build with Parasite, Mantle, Thassa, and Marrow? What's it called? Marrow something. You didn't give me the name, but I know it's like Marrow. Someone help me here. What's the Marrow? It's the Marrow. You can you untap it and it has some ability. You look at the top card of your library, and I think you can like either discard it or scry it or something like that. But what do I think? I think it's jank. Pure Sight Marrow, that's what it is. I think it's jank. I think it's like pure, I think it is pure jank, just as pure as the Pure Sight Marrow. However, Luris is a very interesting addition because you can actually recur the combo cards. So if your opponent, so prior to Luris getting printed, the deck's unplayable. A lot of people have tried it. It doesn't have any really good steam to it. It's not like a really good cohesive strategy because the cards, Paradise Mantle is just trash. It is just a bad card in your deck. So anytime that you draw it and you have nothing close to the combo, it's just a bad draw. Pure Sight Marrow is not bad. It's 2 mana, I believe, for a 2/1 creature that you can just untap it and you can like start filtering the top card of your deck. So that's not too bad. So there's a plus side to Pure Sight Marrow. Now, what I really like about Luris right now, or sorry, I should say, one thing that boosts this deck. Oh, Tuxdev chimes in that it's actually a 2/2 creature, which is actually infinitely better than a 2/1 creature. So one thing that I do like about this combo right now that I have not experimented with is that Luris actually helps the deck a lot. You could probably play with less combo pieces, or if combo pieces get destroyed, you have actually some ability to get the combo back online. And if anyone doesn't know, there is this this way to just filter through your entire deck with Paradise Mantle and Pure Sight Marrow, and then you eventually get to like Thassa's Oracle and just win the game. So that's how the combo works. Not super reliable, but I've seen it get combo. I've seen it get pulled off. Anyway, I don't think it's a very reliable combo, but with Loris, it looks more possible. But I have not seen any builds with Loris or anyone take the approach to add Loris and actually make the combo very good. So I don't know. That's all I can say about that particular card or that particular deck. Brenton says, Merfolk was my first deck, no Vials or Mutavaults, and I'd go like 2-2, most locals, cost like $70. Yeah, absolutely. Like, when I started making these budget Merfolk decks, I said, like, this will be playable. You'll get some games in. You are not going to get thrashed if you play with a budget Modern deck. You can go 2-2. You can go 3-1 sometimes. Maybe if the deck is really good and your opponents are, like, not so great, you can go 4-0. So, I mean, you can get games in. You can win. It's all possible. Especially since, like, the expensive parts of Merfolk, like Ether Vial, aren't even necessary in some matchups. Like, there's a lot of attrition-based matchups we side out Ether Vials. So, like, you can live without it in a lot of archetypes. And then Tuckstep says, owning 4 Chalice makes transitioning into Legacy much more accessible. For Merfolk, yes, that is very possible. Legacy is accessible. Just the lack of upfront content like Modern, Pioneer, EDH has a lackluster playability. Then a group of cards are pricey, sure. The puffer fish will not be defeated so easily, says Arzang. Huge puffer fish fan. Matt Hot says, is there an argument for more 2-mana Planeswalkers or even a 1-mana Walker in a future Modern Horizons set? I think if they print... Okay, so here's the thing with these 2-mana Planeswalkers, and even 3-mana Planeswalkers. I think the lower you make the mana cost on Planeswalkers, the crappier this Planeswalker has to be. Like, it's got to be, like, harmless, all right? I don't like the idea of them pushing cheap Planeswalkers. That is stupid. Stop doing that. Like even... Wrenn and 6 is just blatantly annoying for any deck that is playing with 1 toughness creatures. Why should this card just like that makes a huge deck building restriction? And what if they make more cards like this to the point where you just can't even play 1 toughness creatures? In Standard, 1 toughness creatures were unplayable anytime that Goblin Chainwhirler was in existence. Goblin Chainwhirler put a huge hurt on deck design. A huge hurt on deck design, because when the moment it enters the battlefield, it just wipes out the 1 toughness creatures. So like there are problems with Teferi Time Raveler. There are problems with Oko, because the cheaper you go on the mana cost, which can get ramped out on turn 2 with mana dorks, like the more likely they're going to get banned. So I think it's fine to have like a cheap Planeswalker, but it needs to be more defensive in nature, not offensive, and it needs to be... They just need to be weaker. Like, they can be like a fine card. Like, what if Wrenn and 6 just brought back lands from your graveyard? That might be fine. That might be fine. 2 mana with a minus ability, just like the War of the Spark Planeswalkers. They have nowhere to go but down. That might be fine. The fact it can like snipe down creatures and then also give retrace to all the stuff in their graveyard. I mean, screw off. This is stupid. The card had to get banned in Legacy because of this. And one day, it's probably going to get broken in Modern. Simple as that. It's just the moment where like some particular land card gets printed that gets abused by Wrenn and 6. Or maybe more decks can end up splashing for Wrenn and 6. Right now, Wrenn 6 doesn't have a good home, except for Jund, but the moment it can be found in like another archetype, and another archetype, and another archetype, and then it's going to be a serious problem, because, you know, one deck playing a 2-mana Planeswalker, not too bad, we can tolerate that. You know, we could even tolerate that like with Mox Opal to some extent. But when like Affinity and Lantern Control and KCI and We're Prison are all playing Mox Opal. Okay, stop it. That is too much. So right now, Wrenn and 6 looks fair because not enough people can break it at once. But one day, Well, I don't know. Like one day something's gonna happen. Maybe not, but like I don't think we should have more 2-mana planeswalkers unless they're really, really safe. Like they're not oppressive. They're not annoying. Just I don't know. There can be a rest in peace planeswalker for all I care, just like Ashiok. Lassie says, I love those streams because you actually care about the chat. Oh yeah, I love the chat. Loving the chat. Where would I be without all of you? Just me just talking about random stuff, talking about, I don't know, my coffee, the coupons that are on this table, some pens, bottle of hand sanitizer. So the Magic Geek says it helps when Chalice protects itself against most of the played artifact hate right now. Shattering Spree hasn't been played recently as much as it used to be, and it was one of the biggest hosers. Yeah, Shattering Spree. I like how Chalice protects you against Nature's Claim, which is pretty popular. Yeah, Nature's Claim, if you play Chalice on one, you're protected against it. Lorenzo, if on the draw you could draw 2 cards instead of 1, would still be better play on the play? Drawing 2 cards on the draw. That is a big advantage. I think at that point, you in standard and limited, it would most definitely be better than being on the play. And I think probably in Modern and Legacy it would still be better. Yeah, drawing 2 extra cards, that would be ridiculous. So hold on, you start with 7, you draw into 9, you play a land, you play a 1-drop creature or something, or a permanent. That sounds busted to me. Yeah, I think being on the draw would end up being better. Let's see, what's going on here? Coffee time. Ethan says coffee time. Yes, it's coffee time. Let's take another sip of that coffee. What are you people drinking? Coffee, tea, Slurpee? Maybe Slurpee? Someone's drinking a Slurpee out there. Let me know if you're into the Slurpee or the slushy sort of stuff you can get at 7-Eleven or sort of local, I don't want to call it like Quickie Mart, but just convenience store. Lemonade, Cohen's on lemonade, Donald on tea, Brenton on water. Hey, water's a fine choice too. It's probably the best one. Water will keep you more awake than anything else if you're doing it properly. Cactuso Vismox on Coke, Coca-Cola. Lassie also on Coke. Gotta love your Coke in Europe. Coca-Cola well represented in Europe. Like I'm telling you, like when I'm in Europe, it seems like Coke has just dominated. It's like Pepsi has no presence in Europe, or like a very poor presence in Europe when I was in Europe. When I was living there and traveling, my God, it's like people are like, Pepsi, what the hell is that? Basically, I was walking on the street and people would, like representatives of Coca-Cola would just give me free Coke. I'm like, that's awesome. I never get this in Canada. No one ever tries to do this in Canada. So they, like Coke, I feel has like some sort of monopoly in Europe and they just want to hold it. And there's a screw Pepsi. In the long run, Pepsi's not even going to be a thing in Europe. Not that I have any particular hate for Pepsi, but I am a Coke fan, and it looks like they are making their mark on in at least one continent and preventing. They're not letting a shred of market share go to anybody else. Willie Hall, EXP, welcome. Let's see. Looking for the questions. I can tell I'm like an hour behind at this point. In Germany, you can get vials for 10 euros, says Lassie. That sounds actually pretty expensive. I think that's more expensive in Europe than in America right now. Sandro Kosh, have you decided which keyboard you want to buy? I have not. I've just started investigating. I've been like looking up. I was even watching videos this morning on it, watching videos last night. So I think what I want, because I know a lot of gamers, they like mechanical keyboards. I don't know if that's going to be for me. Very important, I want a keyboard that's not going to make me tired, and the idea of pushing further down on keys all the time is not appealing to me. So I think, I mean, and that's what it seems to be for the traditional mechanical keyboards. Like, I'm totally all about reducing as much physical effort as possible throughout an entire day. Like, even if you're going to play Magic Online for a very long time, then you only have so much energy in a day, and the more energy you burn on stupid things, the more you drain through before you like your brain starts crashing and stuff like that. So if I have to constantly push further on this button all the time, I don't know how much effort that's going to be, but I don't like the idea of fatiguing my arm or hand. I might end up going with a chiclet keyboard. Now, if there is any mechanical chiclet keyboards out there, I'd love to hear about it. I'm trying to investigate them. They seem sort of niche and not very popular, but I might want to go in that direction. Because I do like, I am used to the Apple keyboard where you don't go very far to push the key down. You just like, you push and it just like, it's automatically entered. I don't have to put any effort into it. Very ergonomic, by the way, because they're very flat. So I've been used to a very ergonomic, fatigueless keyboard for a very long time. I wouldn't mind having something durable, something new. I don't mind going non-Apple, but it's got to be in that. It sort of looks like we want something that's going to be ergonomic, effortless, and maybe chiclet in that direction, because the keys are shorter to enter them in. Oh, a lot of people have suggested I buy a mouse with the roller ball. I am just not for those mice. I mean, I'm aware of them. I don't have any ergonomic problems. I don't have any like carpal tunnel from just moving a mouse around. I just prefer it that way. I'm so in tune with that, I just can't use the roller ball on the mouse these days. But I realize, like, oh, by the way, I don't have them near me, but all but one of my computer parts have come in. So we might be closer to streaming on Twitch than we thought. We might be closer. It could be happening anytime now. So I'm just waiting for one more thing to come in, and it's going to be awesome. And but I realized I don't have a keyboard. I do not have a keyboard for this computer coming in. I'm like, oh my God, I need to get a keyboard really soon. And I don't want to buy like a crappy keyboard and then buy a good keyboard on top of that. So I need to quickly research a keyboard, order it, get it shipped by Amazon ASAP, and then get it here and connected so that we can start doing the streaming. But so anyway, that's my thoughts on the keyboard. I want something, and also, okay, do you know what's also I think is going to be important for me? I might get a separate like number pad just for Magic the Gathering Online to be passing priority, passing until a response, passing until end of turn. Like, I want all these things hotkeyed. And the problem is, well, I don't know, maybe I could use it on a normal keyboard, but I want to sort of like put stickers on the thing. Can anyone recommend me anything? Like, if you can recommend me like a good keypad or control panel, like I saw Cooler Master had like a really good control, like they had something like a control panel, but I couldn't buy it. It was like on, what's it called? Like one of those GoFundMe sites. The name escapes me for some reason. So I want some sort of like mission control pad. If anyone has like some high quality stuff, they can recommend me. Like DM me on Twitter or Facebook for that sort of stuff, or even in YouTube comments. I won't be able to see them here because like I can't see anything, and no one can show any links here. And also I'm like pretty far behind when it comes to the chat. But those things I'm looking into. I would love if there was like a control panel to the left of a keyboard, but like almost no keyboards come with that. All the extra crappy keys are on the right. But the problem is, like, you know, the way my hands are. Here's my mouse. Here's the left side of the very left side of the keyboard. I don't want to like scrunch my hand to the right side of the keyboard to use hotkeys. I don't think that's going to be good. And I don't want to like move my keyboard over, and then when I have to type, I have to, you know, reach over to the side. You get my problems? You get my problems? That's the situation. But I have been looking into keyboards. That is something I've been doing, because time is of the essence. Only one computer part to come in, and we're good to go for the Twitch streaming. Let's look. You know what really sucks about all this? Because of the crisis, all this computer stuff is much more expensive than before. Rocket Horde, Google that, has 5 hotkeys to the left. Ooh, that's something good. Thanks, Will Hall. I'll look into that. I might need more than 5 hotkeys though, because you got like the pass priority, pass until your opponent does something, like F6, pass until end of turn. I want to utilize yes and no. I also need like a 6th hotkey for like stop all auto yields. I might need 6. Maybe 5 is good enough, and I'll just use a random number as something. I'll figure it out. But it will be convenient for Magic the Gathering online play, that's for sure. Brenton says, I was salty Counterspell didn't get oriented in Horizons. I thought that it would. Me too! What the hell is up with that? Why isn't there Counterspell in Modern? Counterspell sees no play in Legacy. Okay, maybe you can find like a one of in some deck. Let's be serious. It sees no play in Legacy. It would see tons of play in Modern. And I don't even think it'd be that restrictive. Like screw off Mana Leak. We don't need Mana Leak. We need Counterspell. And by the way, I think a lot of the Mana Leak players would still play Mana Leak if their deck was constructed in a way that cannot get double blue. So, you know, Mana Leak will still have some niche presence in Modern, but like, I don't think we should keep Counterspell from Modern just for things like Logic Knot and Mana Leak. This is dumb. Blue should have Counterspell. It's really hard to sell Wizards on giving us Counterspell now because like Control is damn powerful now. They have Uro and a million Planeswalkers. They've got Jace the Mind Sculptor, Teferi Hero of Dominaria, Teferi Time Raveler. They've got Narset. They got everything. And now we're going to give them Counterspell? Jeez. I mean, like, I want to use Counterspell, but the very first thing that Wizards will always think about when they print blue cards is, what is Control going to do with this? What is Control? How is Control going to use this? So that is always going to be the that's always the barrier to getting nice, good things for a blue deck, especially a creature blue deck. Just print the damn 1-mana Merfolk, Wizards. Just do it. Just give us the 1-mana. Control can't use it unless you print something stupid like Emery. Then yes, some version of Control will use it. they found a way to get a Merfolk to use they found a way for some like Control prison deck to use a Merfolk card. Unbelievable. All right, so we're at the top of the hour, so 3 more questions. We'll go through 3 more questions. Time to Nikachu and chill on my lunch break. Should we rename this to Nikachu and chill? A lot of people like calling it that. It sounds nice. But it's better for the YouTube algorithm that I have like I have coffee and MTG. YouTube algorithm loves keywords. I hope everyone loves it. These hangouts are very good. And hopefully in the future we can evolve the hangouts to include maybe like Zoom calls, maybe either with guests or the crowd. There are things that we can do with these streams in the future that will be very interesting. Dimitri Brown, what does pony mean? So pony is just a sort of a cute and somewhat friendly derogative word for casual Magic players. Like we're talking super casual. You know the Dunning, what is it called? The Dunning-Kruger effect? Where people think they're very, very good with very little experience. Like that, at that top moment, that's where the pony is. But also for like at a casual level, they are so oblivious to their like level of strength where they are in Magic that that they think that their decks are like genius decks. But the idea is like they're kitchen tabletop players. I asked a friend about, in poker we've got donkeys. In chess we have patzers. What do you call like a complete rank beginner in, or like not necessarily a beginner, but just like a bad player in Magic in general? And he said pony. And I looked around the room, and people are getting really excited about like 7-mana planeswalkers and like this 8-mana threat. And everyone's having a lot of fun. I'm like, you're right, these people are ponies. So it's like looking into a barnyard of like just everyone just enjoying themselves, oblivious to like the competitive nature. Like they're in a tournament. We're at a tournament, but like these people are not prepared for a tournament. They don't. I don't even think they even know that they're in a tournament. So their like sort of brewed decks just get completely destroyed. Anyway, that is the pony. Someone like incredibly inexperienced and so almost oblivious to the concept of like competitive Magic. If you know what competitive Magic is and you know where you rank in your skill level, you're definitely not a pony. You're definitely a rank above the pony. The ponies are mostly kitchen tabletop players and stuff like that. Yeah, mostly a beginner player. Yeah. Krishnell says, Nikachu calls some formats the pony formats. So like definitely, even like the like Commander is a pony format. Just even like what it's about is for the pony level. It's not about winning. It's about having fun. It's about having fun. Just enjoy yourself. Thomas Perry, or Thomas Perry is asking the chat, but my wife is making her first trip to Walmart since the pandemic began, and she asked if I would like a couple packs of cards. Should I get Throne or Theros? I doubt they'll have Ikoria. I can't, that would be for the chat. I can't give a good answer to that, so I'm not going to waste this won't be considered one of the last 3 questions. I think Throne is very popular. And I think there's still money in it, but I have no idea. That'll be for everybody else to answer. Where are we here? Unban Deathrite Shaman. It's fun in Pioneer. So I'm not sure if this is a question. Let's find out. David, in the past 2 years before the rise of Bant, why was Blue-White Control played more than Esper or Jeskai? That's what I noticed, but maybe your experience is different. Okay, so there is a very good answer to that. So first off, Jeskai was only good at a time when spot removal is good. It's like a one-trick pony sort of control deck. Lightning Bolt, Lightning Helix, Path to Exile. Those cards don't scale well. It's mostly just one-for-oneing people, and if those cards aren't good, if the threats are larger than 3 toughness, your deck sucks. Because Lightning Bolt doesn't do very well against Matter Reshaper, Thought-Knot Seer, or Reality Smasher, or anything that has any big body. Doesn't do very well against Death Shadow or Gurmag Angler. So a lot of your cards are garbage in those matchups. So in a metagame where that spot removal is strong, there's a lot of weak creatures to kill with it, Jeskai Control is great. However, the fact of the matter is, Modern does not give a crap about those removal spells, and it's just, if your deck is all about those spot removal cards, it's just an anti-small creature deck. So if your deck is just a creature-based deck with small toughness creatures, it will do good. That's not Modern right now. It hasn't been Modern for a long time. So Jeskai Control, for years, has been really bad. That's why Blue-White Control is a little bit more on the proactive plan and going big with the Planeswalkers and big sweepers. And it still has Path to Exile as a safety valve against any creature because Path to Exile literally kills anything. But for the most part, Jeskai has been, it's too focused on those removal spells, and they don't scale very well. It's just one-for-oneing people. Whereas, like, Blue-White Control buries you in card advantage. First, they do it with Narset. Find, I don't know, Cryptic Command, Supreme Verdict, or anything like that. But he usually can find about 2 cards. Then next, it is with Teferi Time Reveler. Bounce something, draw a card. Then Jace the Mind Sculptor, draw an extra card every turn. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, draw an extra card every turn. And get 2 extra mana, which is stupid. So it buries you in card advantage, and it's just super ultra powerful. That's why Blue-White Control has been hands down the more effective control deck, and it can utilize Field of Ruin better because it's only a 2-color control deck, and it can play around Blood Moon better. Esper had like a little bit of a following, but the fact that you're going 3 colors just for Esper Charm just isn't going to do it. And Fatal Push, it's good, but it doesn't kill everything. It still doesn't kill everything in Modern. You still have problems against Gurmag Angler and Reality Smasher, and you might Blue-White Control proved that Path to Exile is more or less enough. Sure, you can bring in like some other somewhat removal spells, but sometimes Detention Sphere. But basically, Path to Exile is basically enough. The splashing black just for Fatal Push is not going to do it. So I hope that's a really good answer. Blue-Eye Control just dominantly the better deck. And the reason why they are now going Bant is because Uro is a fantastic win condition. It's good value, keeps your life total up, keeps your land drops coming. And Ice Fang Quaddle is just way too good to ignore as well. It is like, it's a 2-for-1 almost all the time. So you enters the battlefield, draws a card, blocks a creature, exchanges the creatures, kills anything, so it's very, very strong. So and the risk is very little, because now they use Arkham's Astrolabe. So splashing Arkham's Astrolabe, which also draws a card, so the cost isn't very high, makes it so that going Bant is not a big cost as going Esper. Splashing Arkham's Astrolabe in Esper, you can do it, but not as big of a payoff there, unless you can blink the damn thing somehow, because at least the Bant control deck can play with Ice Fang Quaddle. Great question, great question. Okay, one more question. Where's our last question? The Magic Geek. How to balance Deathrite Shaman? Add blue, tap, create a token named Lord of Atlantis with other merfolk, get +1/+1 and gain Island Walk. I won't consider this my question, but Kumari says, do you ever consider visiting Germany? If there's a Magic tournament there, yes. And I have visited, I went to Germany. It was my first PTQ top 8 with Merfolk, Modern Merfolk, and that was like the start of my career. It was like a 178 player tournament in, oh, what was it called? I don't remember where it was. It was a funny city or a funny town because you couldn't see it at all when you're driving towards it, and then all of a sudden, boom, you see it. I think it was sort of in a valley of mountains. But I've definitely visited Germany, and I'll definitely visit again if they have another tournament there. Okay, last question. Jin Shooting Star, do you think Chinese proxies are a problem or a solution to the price of Modern and Legacy? I don't think it's a problem, but I also don't think it's a solution. Like, Chinese proxies do not help people play Modern and Legacy, like, legally. It is against the rules to do that, and Wizards will probably never allow proxies for any large scale event. Like they'd be opening a, I know some people have suggested, for certain Legacy events, just allow proxies for the reserved list cards. I think that's opening a can of worms you don't want to go back, because then it might give the excuse, well, any expensive card should be a proxy, or you can make like a 10 proxies only tournament or some crap like that. No, I don't think that's where it, and I don't even think that would fix the problem. It might just displace what ends up becoming expensive. So Chinese proxies I don't think is going to ruin the game, especially since some people have the thought like Chinese proxies will eventually get as good as actual Magic cards. So I'll give you my thoughts on the matter. I don't think Chinese proxies can ever imitate old cards because they're old. I think it's very hard to replicate like the smell, the type of ink, the type of paper that were used on actual old cards. Like even if you can spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars on a factory that will imitate these like super old Black Lotus cards, why don't you just print normal cards right now? Like, and the risk, like I hear what people sometimes say, like if an Alpha Black Lotus approaches $1 million, there is now a way, or sorry, there is incentive to copy that thing, and therefore there is more incentive to copy like old reserve list cards if the price skyrockets high enough. But those cards are scrutinized like jewelry. I think that's my issue with it. Like, first off, I don't think you can make a perfect copy. There will be something. Even the age, you can do carbon testing on an old card to determine its age. You will be able to determine that the old card is old and the new card is like was created very, very recently. I don't think you can make a perfect carbon copy of an old, I don't think you can make a perfect copy of an old card, even for collectible reasons. So I think the old cards are relatively safe, but however, the new cards are not. The new cards, and I'll tell you why new cards can be like proxied very easily. You just need some sort of insider who prints cards for Wizards to have access to all of Wizards' intellectual property to just print extra copies for themselves. Like I've seen this. I've seen like almost like perfect looking expeditions, and they like rip them open, and they've got like they didn't have blue core, they had black core. But the point is, in the comments section, they said that they just work for the factory and they can make this stuff themselves. So I think the risk isn't the old cards getting reprinted. It's like the risk is like new cards getting reprinted. But because they can literally just make perfect forgeries because they make these cards themselves. Or someone independently could make a factory with the same machines, same materials, and same ink that Wizards uses. If they just copy all the exact same process with all of today's technology, of course they can make the same cards. I don't know, but if you do make perfect proxies of standard legal cards, I don't think that's going to be a big problem to the game. It might be a slight problem to the market, but you can't milk it for too much. Same thing with money. Like there's a lot of fake money out there, but it's not doesn't crash the economy instantly. But for the modern, I don't know if it's going to be a problem for Modern and Legacy. But I don't think it's a solution to Modern and Legacy. I don't know. I don't know about the ramifications for making the proxies. So let's look at some thoughts that TuxDev has at the bottom here. If it's Wizards' solution, they should just kill the reserved list like they should have ages ago. Proxies are a non-Wizards of the Coast solution. Well, the problem with killing the reserved list, and I've heard this, and a lot of people have said, well, you should just kill the reserved list, and like there might be lawsuits, but you just fight it through. A business doesn't want to have any lawsuits, and there's definitely going to be something happening through promissory estoppel. A lot of people say, oh no, the judge is just going to throw it out. No, they're not. There's going to be litigation for sure, 100%. If you don't know the law, there is something called promissory estoppel where, a company will, if you take a loss based on the actions or how do I put it? If someone says something and then you take actions about what someone said, and then they go against what they said, and then you take a loss from that, you can sue the source. That's something you can do in America. And from a company's standpoint, you have two options. You can get rid of the reserved list, or you just print new things. That's easy, and you're not going to get sued for that one. One option gets you sued, and that has this undeterminable cost and this giant source of risk. And the other one doesn't have any risk because you're not going to get sued, and there is not going to be some cost to getting sued. And how much money can you even make off the reserved list? I don't know if you can. Like the reserved list the cards on the reserved list are only expensive because they're on the reserved list. The moment that people know like Underground Sea or Black Lotus could theoretically get reprinted, a lot of that stuff is going to collapse. Even if Wizards doesn't reprint a whole lot of stuff, I think a lot of that stuff is just going to lose like a ton in value. Let's see what some people have some thoughts about this. Rip the damn Band-Aid. I think it's too late to rip the damn Band-Aid. That's the problem, TuxDev. Professor has talked about Wizards of the Coast and the reserve list, talking about how lawyers stated Wizards of the Coast wouldn't be under fire with lawsuits. No? I don't know exactly what you're referencing. Or I don't know if I understand your question correctly. A store owner here once was buying cards and 100% said out loud he thought this dude's Liliana of the Veil was fake and tore it in half. It wasn't. He never lived it down 2 years later. One problem with looking at cards thinking they're fake is that there are 3 different printers in the world. There's one in North America, there's one in Brazil, or sorry, maybe there's one in Brazil for North America, there's one in Europe, and there's one in Japan. There's at least 3 main ones. There might be more than that. And they all have slightly different variations. Like the ink is a little bit different, so it might be lighter than another one. Their foiling is a little different. So like, it's very easy to think a card might be fake and just comparing it to comparing a European or Japanese card to a bunch of American cards and say, hey, this is totally off, it's fake, and rip it up. I'm like, oh my god, this thing is definitely real. So it's not so easy to determine just based on like the fading of a card if it's like real or fake or not. Well, anyway, that was awesome. We had a great time today. That was a great coffee and MTG with Nikachu. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for coming out. We had some great questions, really good discussion, and we're going to continue it, especially tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to do this 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, just like we did today. So be aware of that. And I will definitely be I'm going to try to keep a full pot of coffee coming. Keep that coffee running and keep the conversation going. And I hope that I can connect with a lot more of you, so it has a lot more, so that we can keep each other company. Central Standard Time, yes. Central Modern Time, Cody Hope says. So thank you very much for hanging out, and I will see you, hopefully I will see you tomorrow. Take care. See you later, bye-bye.